Welcome back. Coffee with Kish. Hi, I'm Kish, and you're here, hopefully today, to geek out with me about Mormonism. I love geeking out on Mormon topics. So today I wanted to tell you about something that I think is very exciting and important, and that is a really cool podcast, Angels and Seerstones. Angels and Seerstones is all about Mormon folklore and how it fits into the larger folklore context. It's hosted by Christine and Chris Blythe, who are trained folklorists and academics. Publish on this stuff. Chris Blythe, for example, has this wonderful book out with Oxford University Press on Latter-day Saint apocalypticism. Now, they have a limited time series, and this is why I'm bringing this to your attention right now. August is nearly gone, and this special series is going to disappear on September 1st. So go listen to it now. Go subscribe to Angels and Seerstones and listen to this very important series. This important series is about the Chad Daybell and Daybell-Vallow tragic murders, horrific murders of two children, Tylee and Joshua. Now, this is a very grisly subject, but it's one that helps you really understand the fringes of the Latter-day Saint movement today. Chad and Lori Daybell really got into NDEs, or near-death experiences, and the sort of tide swell of Mormon apocalyptic beliefs that are current today, with people preparing for the last days, the so-called preppers, people all across the western United States and other places who are preparing for the end of the world and the second coming of Christ. Now, the NDE part is very interesting, and it sort of hits home to me because as a young man, I was interested in near-death experiences. And if you walked into a Mormon bookstore, you would find little books on the shelf called Beyond the Veil, and there were multiple volumes of this. There were thin little books, but they regaled you with the first-person accounts of people's experiences on the other side of the veil after death. Having passed away, they would see the afterlife, and then brought back to life, they would tell you all about what they saw there. And these are personal experiences. Some would say they're sacred experiences and probably shouldn't be out there in the wild. And yet they were very popular books, and I read them myself as a young man. But I kind of soured on the whole near-death experience thing because one time flipping through one of these books, I think it was in my early 20s, I was out at BYU, I suddenly realized that the people who had shared their stories in this one particular volume were actually people I knew. I read their stories, but there's something that didn't quite gel in these stories for me. Because I knew these people, I knew their stories, I knew they'd never shared these stories with me, and in both cases, these were people that, I had reasons to doubt their credibility as sources. I'm not going to get into their identities, but in one case, I had heard the story of this person's brush with death from somebody else, and they had absolutely no clue that there was this near-death experience. That experience had never been shared. Now, I'm not saying that all near-death experiences are just made-up fantasies, but this kind of soured my enthusiasm for near-death experience stories, and for this series in particular. Well, near-death experience books have not flagged in their popularity in the Latter-day Saint community. And there are some, up to the present time that certain LDS people treat almost like scripture. And of course, they're not doing this in line with the official doctrines and teachings of the church or its scriptural canon. But, these books are wildly popular. In fact, Chad Daybell was an author of such books, and there's a picture of Chad and Lori Daybell that was taken shortly before they were taken into custody that shows that Lori Vallow was reading one of these books. All right, so enough about that. You can read about these events and these phenomena in other places, but I just wanted to spend a few minutes with you recommending this series. Chris Blythe, in little 15-minute installments, goes through a lot of the really unusual beliefs that Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow had. They are on the fringe of Latter-day Saint belief and lore, and there's a fair amount of creativity in there. Like, they had this idea of spiritual zombies, that people, even young children below the age of 8, could be taken over by evil spirits. And this was the way that they justified these horrible crimes. Well, as Chris Blythe discusses, you can trace back this kind of supernatural justification for horrible murders of family members back to earlier phenomena in global culture. For example, in the British Isles, the idea of changelings, that fairies or trolls would steal babies and replace them with their own offspring, so that a human family would raise a fairy or troll child as their own. And unsurprisingly and tragically, that folk belief in the past was used to justify abusing children and even, sadly, murdering them. Anyway, that's just a taste of what Chris Blythe talks about in his series on Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. It's a horrible tragedy, but you really do learn some interesting things about the fringes of the Latter-day Saint movement as it exists today, and the interest in alternate theories of the afterlife, near-death experiences, and so forth. So thanks for joining me again. This is a short one. We'll have longer ones and shorter ones. Today's a short one. I've got a lot of things on my plate that I have to get done for work. But thank you for joining us again for Coffee with Kish. Have a great day and see you next time.